Hello, it's Brad Laurie, or Blockchain Brad, and today I'm honoured to speak with two gentlemen from Morpheus Labs. We have none other than the COO and the CEO in the house. We have PeiHan and Branson. Gentlemen, thank you very much, both of you, for your time this evening.
Hi, everybody.
Now, obviously, gentlemen, we've spoken once before, and when we did, you were just embarking on your technology venture. You'd raised capital and you basically knuckled down and focused for a very long time. Today, it's very different. Today, you're in an exciting climate where we're seeing blockchain enterprise emerge and protocols are leading the way in different parts of the world. So let's start with exactly what Morpheus Labs is about, for those who don't know. Your slogan is essentially about putting a blockchain ding in the business universe. So what does that exactly mean when we're trying to understand protocols in the context of enterprise? We'll start with you, PeiHan, as the CEO.
Okay, hi, everyone. Okay, so I think blockchain has been around for quite a few years. So for recent years, a lot of people actually, there's a big question on adoption. So this is actually a serious problem that we actually looking at. So how can we actually help blockchain technology to make it faster in adoption? So that's actually our anchor point. So if we actually look at some of our partners' explanation, I mean, I don't have to say that, but we look at from our partners. I mean, guys, you can actually go and do research. So we are actually sitting right on top of the blockchain protocols. It can be all the blockchains that we see. For example, our partner VChain, QuackChain, NOWS. So we are actually the infrastructure tool solution, which sitting on top, and a gateway between them and enterprise users. Because so far, the adoption barrier that we're actually looking at is actually belongs to two types. One type is actually, we call it a technology adoption. Another type is actually called as cost adoption. So for technology adoption, it means that the technology can be really great, but it's really hard to use it.
Right. So I'm just going to jump in and explain a few things to clarify and reiterate sometimes, and that'll happen throughout the interview, obviously, PeiHan, and I thank you for that explanation. Now, essentially, you mentioned the concept of overlay. Now, that representing a multitude of different blockchain themselves, and we'll go through those you represent, but fundamentally you are infrastructural and you're also about being interoperable as a technology, as a fundamental support mechanism for enterprise, combining with protocols. Now, Branson, can you add to that? Can you clarify for us what the problem is fundamentally when we think of it from an enterprise stance specifically and blockchain business?
Sure. So I think it's no secret that a lot of enterprises have been looking at blockchain technology as a sort of a game changer for their business. So I think that's the main point. But at the end of the day, I think most enterprises are struggling with the fact that, okay, so now there's this wonderful technology out there called blockchain. How do I get started? Right. So that's fundamentally what they're looking at. But beyond that, we see blockchains being introduced every other day, right? So you have new blockchains being introduced with higher transaction per second TPS, higher throughput, so on and so forth. So that brings us to the next question. How do I differentiate between the different blockchains, right? So that's where we seek to, clarify this, and you don't have to actually select one right now. And that's where we have multiple blockchains running on our platform, and you can actually experiment with any of them. Now, once you have chosen or sort of experimented with one blockchain, the next part of it is actually trying to understand what are the use cases for your specific industry. For example, automotive or supply chain or finance, right? So that's where we again step in to say that, okay, right now we have an app store with pre-configured sort of sample use cases that you can actually take for a spin, right? And then the next step, the third problem is that, okay, so if I've selected the blockchain, I have the use case. Do I need to go install the different packages, sync up with the nodes and all those things? No, you don't have to, because you have done all the installation and everything for you. So therefore, I think long story short, if you look at all these three problems, which blockchain, what use case, and how do I get started? I think that's where, we fit into the sweet spot of, getting enterprises started, get them started in the blockchain technology very, very quickly.
Right, and Branson, that relates exactly to what your key slogan is as a blockchain platform as a service, and that service is key because, again, you provide for a means and a conduit for enterprise to engage in the blockchain domain, and literally to do things like customization, optimization, and even try to articulate through a suite of options you provide exactly how they can best utilize blockchain for their own efficiency, performance, productivity. We've seen this kind of thing very rarely in the blockchain space. Not a lot of companies are doing this kind of thing at this full stack layer. So let's explore that. Let's bring it to the full stack for a moment. Now, again, you're the BPaaS, the blockchain service, but you're all about prototyping, deployment, customization, and also providing that consultancy. So, PeiHan, can you talk us through, if I was a business and I want to transition, talk us through the process. What exactly are the steps and and everything that's involved in utilizing Morpheus Labs tech?
Okay, so this is actually a real example. We have a client, I just shared a real example. Our client, VeriTAG, they actually have been looking for a blockchain solution for past few years. And they happen to actually went to a famous provider last year. And after half a year consultation, and they try to implement a POC, actually end up there's nothing come up. So they actually what happened. Then they actually come to us. So we provide the first layer of consultation to them to advise perhaps how they can use our platform to select which blockchain, and from there we actually help them to handhold them to actually build the POC using our platform. Example, how can they actually spin up and configure blockchain, and from there actually use our environment tool to develop and perhaps actually get from our app store to customize it. So it actually effectively shorten the whole processes. And from our experience, it could actually reduce about 60% of the time and about 50 to 6% of the cost that involved. Okay, so
let's just go back a moment. So you're saying over 50%, not to FOMO this, but that's quite significant for any enterprise anywhere in the world. And considering you're addressing multitude of verticals even now in the beginning of your technology and delivering that in the enterprise sector, especially in the private sector, that's really substantial if you can prove you can save money for those companies.
Yes, so that's a reason why we have actually have a few clients actually using us. So there's actually a validation of that, and in fact, quite a few of our blockchain partners, they actually came in before we have an agreement. They'll do a due diligence and they actually check with on our platform how efficient it can actually bring towards to their customers. So just let's circle out the first part of installation of the blockchain and set it up. Effectively of that, we actually measure, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds for us to complete that process. Compared to maybe a company right now, without us, it might actually take a few days. So there's a good example of how fast it can be. So then progressively, there are actually other tiers and other layers we can actually help to reduce.
Right. Okay. So obviously the interface is key. You must have a really seamless process in which these companies can engage and utilize the tech according to the platform itself. Clearly, you've built that. How is everything going in terms of the delivery, in terms of ease of use?
So far, with quite a handful of clients, they're actually quite satisfied with the deliveries, especially not talking to the client side, where on top of that, the partner side, they're actually extremely happy with the result. They will actually join the Explore, because we actually did a few rounds of testing, so they're actually quite impressed.
Right, and it'll be good to talk to some of them in the future as well, PeiHan, so I can get the feedback from them. But it is good that you're explaining that they are relaying that to you. Now, I want to also talk about some of those key aspects. Let's bring it back to the tech so we can really hit that on the nail on the head first. Now, you have several programming languages. My understanding is 7. That's quite a lot. That's quite generic. That allows for more development. Talk us through that and how you're going to build upon that.
I will basically want to take this question. You're more technical than me.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So basically, I think everyone knows that different technology stack requires different programming languages. Obviously, Ethereum, most people would like to program in Solidity, and VeChain, you probably have another programming language as well. So I think providing a environment where the developers themselves are the most comfortable with, working with that specific language. I think that's what we aim to do. Because at the end of the day, there's no point providing a platform where, we claim to have all the blockchains and ease of use and use cases, but then you're being forced to actually use a certain programming language. That doesn't work.
Right.
So I think that's the reason why we want to provide as many programming environment as possible. Yeah.
I see. And you support quite a few, as I mentioned before. You advertise on the website, there's 7. And my understanding is there's more onboarding as well. So you have Python, C++, Java,
Yes,
quite a few
exactly.
different ones. That's important also because of the international scope of this potentially, because the more languages, the more development, the greater the ecosystem. Is that fair to say, Branson, as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now let's explore a little bit more about what it means to have this this overlay. As you said, as I mentioned before, in Europe there is another company called Quant Network. We can't shy away from it. They do have an overledger. It is very similar in its concept, but you also have that interoperator, that system built in. You're starting in Singapore. How important is it to have this technology so that you can literally allow companies to pick and choose and customize their needs?
I think for Quant Network and us, we have a slight difference. If I'm correct, they're actually focusing on towards the end phase
Sorry,
of
I just
the
lost you for a
whole
moment.
development side. Okay, sorry. What I mean is actually for Quant Network and us, there's actually a slight difference.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm correct, Quant Network is actually more focused on towards the end and last mile of the client. But for us, we actually focus on more to the front part. So by saying that we are actually in plan to have interoperability in maybe perhaps the end of the year. But right now we are actually focusing on the front part because we believe that right now for the blockchain is still quite new. Most of the people are actually exploring. From research, is about 70% are people actually researching and still exploring. So we think as a beginning, we should actually focus on this area, and slowly, progressively, we move into the interoperability at later stage.
I see.
Yeah,
My apologies for the terminology. So clearly, because you are focused on providing that customization for the front, it would arguably be possible perhaps to partner even in the future with some of these back-end approaches. I'd imagine that you'll be looking at that. But are there any others that you know of, PeiHan, given that you've explained the difference, that are in the blockchain space right now doing something similar to this front-end diversified approach?
Okay, so for our team, we have actually regularly and frequently do research of our possible competitors. So right now, within ourselves and also through our partners, blockchain partners and also end user partners, most of the competitors, or maybe similar, we are actually aiming for the same thing. However, the approach is actually different. Mm-hmm. So it's just an example. I ask you and Branson to draw a flower. The flower can be different.
Sure.
So right now for end-to-end process, example from prototyping to testing to development, this ecosystem, right now we are fortunate to be the only one to have this, I would say, a cohesive environment right now.
I see. So the only full stack of this nature. Yes. Now, Branson, let's bring it back a little bit to the rapid prototyping aspect, because that's a feature. You say that the process is really expedited through the quality of the tech. So talk us through that. How can you claim it? And again, let's address the seamlessness of this.
Sure. So I have the opportunity to actually take the platform for a spin. In fact, I actually recorded a series of videos on some of this programming of this DApps as well. So what I found was that essentially what I can is when I log into the platform, I can straight away select the different blockchains, right? And beyond that, it also prompts me to actually look at the different types of blockchains, and by that I mean, for example, let's say even for Ethereum, right? The platform will suggest things like, do you want a high-speed, high-throughput kind of setup, or do you just want to do something else like a simple, easy setup kind of environment? So all these things are already pre-configured, and at the same time, for the more advanced users, so once I select the expert user or the advanced user, then I am able to customize the stacks that I want. So for example, let's say under Ethereum, I would like to select Ganesh, Truffle, and so on and so forth. Then I will be able to select that stack with the additional RAM. So I want to dedicate more RAM to this stack, for example. So every single bit of the settings can be actually configured to your liking. So I think from that angle, I think most developers will like it because everything is within your control, right? So with the click. So after that, once I've selected the blockchain, I can actually start using my workspace. And the workspace actually starts in about 2 seconds after I click on it, right? And then from there, I can actually start, pulling in or importing my private repository, or I can go to the App Store and pull in the sample applications from there. Right.
So I'll just jump in now. What's interesting is that even that's explained also on your website, and I've seen some of the videos you've done, and right from the beginning to end, it doesn't take very long. It's actually stated as 2-minute experience. Yeah. I wanted to ask you in that note, how ready, given that it's been such a long time since you started, do you feel like the whole technology is now ready, given that you are alive and you're active and doing business? Are there any glitches, any problems, or is it all nice and smooth generally?
I think generally the experience has been pretty smooth. Now, of course, we all know software, so I wouldn't say that 100% of the time, everything will work. If let's say the customer or the client encounters some small little bugs or whatever, I think we are more than happy to actually fix it very, very quickly. But by and large, I think myself, I've actually tried, taking the platform for a spin. I've actually developed a D-app. I've actually, even deploy it to my web server and so on and so forth. I think so far there has been no issues at all. Right.
Now that brings us back to this claim that the team's made of being turnkey ready. Obviously that's key for this year. Now, PeiHan, I want to talk to you about that with regard to January the 25th. It was advertised on Twitter and other platforms of yours. My understanding is that date with regard to really being active, being ready. Can you talk us through why this is such an important milestone for you?
Okay, so 25th of January is actually our official launch. So prior to that, we have a soft launch. And in between this period, we actually have received a lot of the inquiry and customers come to us. So we actually did a lot of the user acceptance tests and improvement. So during this period of time without marketing, there are actually a lot of customers coming to us. So it has been a really stressful period of time because that we do actually want to make our business grow and also to actually have a real user to come in. So everything is actually happening, BD, sales, marketing, and especially platform. On top of that, we have a few big partners and clients actually inquire a lot of things.
Yes, so we're going to get to them, don't worry. So what you're saying is, this is interesting, for a period of time pre-announcement, you've been working behind the scenes developing and forging these very important partnerships to test, to stress test this and also just to use it. Now, Branson, you'd know obviously about these clients. You must be excited that this is real, it's real utility, and it's really being used B2B.
Yeah, I think one of the key things is that our partners or our clients, when they work with us, I think they have been very, very impressed. In fact, some of the clients, told us that, okay, this is the first time they have seen something like this. And therefore, by using some of the features on our platform, it actually shortens a lot of some of the experimentation that they're looking at. In fact, they have gone around shopping around for specific blockchains to work with, but they have yet to see any of this sort, right? So that's the key thing. Yeah.
And PeiHan, why haven't we heard more in the last few months? Obviously, there's a lot going on. Listening to this, you guys are being really serious about this approach. But many people you've really fallen under the radar for the majority. You've been on the market for a long time as a utility. Is it because you're really just starting in this true stream of utility?
Yes. Yeah, yes, that's true. And also that we are team of 18 people. So we only have both hands in 24 hours. So it's actually two sides for us to choose whether we actually want to space out our time to do marketing, or do we actually want to do more or improve our platform and build on our technology. So we in fact actually choose this way, right? And it's actually to improve. And also to add on Branson's point is that very interesting is one of our blockchain partners, the famous one. In the initial discussion, the CTO and the tech team actually look at our platform. And when we actually set up the blockchain, within a few seconds, he was like, "Oh, it's done. Is it done?" In second, he was actually quite surprised. It's done. So there's a reason why they decided to actually have a more tighter integration into our platform instead of maybe other.
So PeiHan, sorry to interrupt, but given that you mentioned they're a major partner, and we are going to explore those in detail, given that experience you've had as the CEO, do you expect this kind of thing to be commonplace, where more major partners come on board simply because you have a first market move, and you also have the technology now to get that kind of feedback where they say, wow, this is done better than I thought it could be done now?
Yes, we actually foresee that, and we emphasize so far, our clients, all of them actually through referral, or maybe they found us. So we foresee that when we step into March, especially with few of our big partners, there'll be more coming in. However, for us, our approach is more towards maybe go through with distributor-like partners. So one-to-one B2B is not really in our preference. Of course, we actually select, depends on which client they are. And the pipeline, in the pipeline, we actually have few this big clients.
Well, what's exciting is you're talking with options. So that tells me you're confident rather than having to just go down one track. Branson, I want to also talk about the pricing. Now, I want to get this really clear for the listeners as well. You are a service fundamentally, which implies you have a pricing system. I would imagine that would be specific to each enterprise party as well. And I would imagine also it's closed. Can you talk us through exactly how this works so that we can understand that in the context of the token economy that you represent as a true utility?
Sure. So essentially, when enterprises decide to come on board, or even in fact, we are having a special tier for individual developers as well. So what they can then do is actually connect via MetaMask, and then they can actually pay for some of these services or subscription to our platform using MITX. Now, obviously, that itself, allows us to actually look at MITX as a pure payment and as well as utility. So basically, they're paying for the services using MITX. Now, of course, there are some questions on, what do you do with some of these MITX and so on and so forth. That's where we actually come up with different things. So, for example, let's say if we work with a specific school, right? Some of these tokens that we have collected, we will sort of sponsor some of these schools, and then therefore release back to the ecosystem, right? So I think that itself, obviously, that's a very, very simplified version of the token economics. There are several other components as well, for example, partnerships and so on and so forth. But essentially, what we want to do is to enable different partners to use this token and recycle back to the
Sure. Now, I'm hearing from you that you have mechanisms in place to utilize the token. Now, we will explore why in detail as to why you're doing that and not just simply using fiat. I mean, we will get real about that, but I want to move back to the pricing for a moment though and focus there. So how does that work? How do you price this service? And is it public knowledge, or will that actually be private and not disclosed?
I think for...
Okay. Let's answer that. Okay, so you actually be transparent, because for us, we believe that only by open and transparency, then we can scale. There's no doubt. I mean, there's no point we had it and somebody contact us and then we contact back, and it takes a lot of time to do that. So we have different tier for pricing, like Branson mentioned. We have individual developers. We have a basic which cater for maybe a startup 3 to 5 developers. We also have advanced, which is actually for SME. Further on that, we actually have enterprise, which actually may be cater for a multinational company, which maybe about 50 to 100 developers. So these actually open in our platform, you can see. But however, it's still we are still massaging some of the figures, and we actually did a lot of intensive research on the pricing. Example, compared to other SaaS solution, or maybe also to compare to some survey with our client and partners.
Right. And so far, what's the feedback been like? You're the CEO, PeiHan, so no one can be better to ask this question to. Has the other CEOs that are engaging from the business sector, are they responding positively to your prices?
In fact, they actually sign up minimum half a year to 1 year. So it actually shows, yes, actually it's a quite reasonable pricing, yes.
Right, and what is exciting also is you're talking with more in plural, so there's several clients. That implies a lot of revenue. Are you confident that this is going to continue to scale in terms of revenue?
Yes, because for our strategy is like I previously mentioned, we would actually work closely with partners who already have existing clientele and waiting to actually use blockchain. So the confidence level compared to for us to go out and talk to and try to close them will be higher.
And also, PeiHan, are we talking 6 figures already in terms of revenue potential now?
Yes, we are actually already have 6-figure revenue in our account. Yes.
Right. And when will that become publicly known and transparent? The kind of reports and audits and that sort of thing.
Okay. So we definitely actually doing our best and all the correct things to actually make it open and transparent to audience. However, in Singapore, there are a lot of things for us to follow to avoid it to become or maybe be seen as a security or maybe a
And I think you raise a very good point there. I mean, we've spoken at length at different times in the past. One of the things I've always remembered is you are very focused on being compliant, not just in Singapore where you're registered, but in every jurisdiction you take it so seriously. And it is also important that we really reinforce this fact that you are endeavoring to be a utility token and a utility-centric system for business. Now, let's explore a little bit more about some of the key aspects of your partnerships. These are big. So I want to start with a big one, and that is Hanwha and the Dream Plus. There's an exclusive situation there. PeiHan, tell us exactly how important, how exclusive, what that means for Morpheus Labs. Why is this a big deal?
I think I'll pass to Branson. Korea is Branson's second home.
So Branson, you're based in Korea, are you normally?
My other half is Korean. So anyway.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah. So I think it's very significant. I think I cannot state this because at the end of the day, for a large conglomerate in Korea to actually recognize the work that we're doing, I think that's a huge testament to all the effort that we have put in. So in fact, Hanwha at the end of the day, they would not choose any companies on the street.
Well, just to interrupt there, just for those who don't know Hanwha, Branson, can you give us just an insight into what is Hanwha and what's the magnitude of their business in Korea?
Sure. So Hanwha has a lot of businesses in different so-called industries. They are what we call the Kibol, right? So and Kibol are large companies in Korea like CJ, like Samsung, LG, so on and so forth. So they are one of those Kibol business conglomerates.
So they're a big player. Exactly.
So they have been set up, I think, about 67 years ago, and they run multiple businesses there. Obviously, one of the key areas that they're looking at is also blockchain, right? And of course, besides it, they have businesses in defense, they have businesses in manufacturing, chemicals, finance, and so on and so forth. So I think where we sit is actually with the finance / investment arm, and obviously they see a potential in blockchain technology, which is why they are partnering us. Yeah,
I see. Now, obviously, that's a big deal. I want to talk about that in relation to the term exclusive. Is it my understanding? Am I correct in saying that you have an exclusive association, a reciprocal one in some respects, with this connection between yourselves in Singapore and they in Korea? What's the benefit both sides?
So for us, what we are doing now is actually coming up with a series of programming blockchain course for Hanwha, and this will be rolled out to their Dream Plus program, which currently takes on about 20,000 students. I think that's a massive number. Obviously, you know, all these developers will need to actually have access to blockchain and the development environment itself. So that's where we actually come in. In fact, we have recorded a series of videos for them so that they can actually follow step by step, right? Not just, you know, this is a blockchain, go ahead and program. That's not what we're doing. So we actually, we have developed a series of videos for them. We started off with Ethereum. We're also looking at other blockchains as well.
Right. So you set up the educational services for them, or the educational material. But what could that mean for Morpheus Labs beyond just providing those, in terms of the potential to expand the business in these regions of the globe?
Yes. So if Hanwha sees the potential in Morpheus Labs and the ease of use for us, I think we cannot discount the fact that, you know, potentially some other MNCs or even enterprises might want to come on board. And, you know, that, you see, I think at the end of the day, it's always about, you know, who believes in you, right? So if you have a huge company, a huge MNC that believes in this company, then obviously, you know, other enterprises are more willing to try or even take a look at what we are doing. So I think the potential for Morpheus Labs is extremely tremendous. Yeah.
Right. Now, PeiHan, I want to talk to you about this. It must have been quite a rigorous application to be accepted as the exclusive, you know, party, the blockchain party for this deal. Talk us through that and what it means to you to have Hanwha, you know, partnered.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, for most of our partners, we actually went through at least a year of the process, and they did a lot of duty. And for us, if you look carefully for all our partners that we actually form all the strategic partnership. That means that we look for partners that actually already in the space and want to do things. Instead, if you actually compare to other projects, they might actually sign with some big name, but
like a superficial partnership that doesn't do anything, you mean?
Correct. Yeah. And I saw a lot of partnership, they sign this, and if you go and find, these partners would maybe still try to explore. So
right.
That is actually our value in this type of partners, and not only limited to Hanwha, also to the blockchain partners as well. So we all look for this, not only scalability. I mean, for our team, we're actually looking at scalability and the high conversion rate, and also the loyalty. That means stickiness. How would the user come on board, and after that they will actually stick with us.
I see.
Yeah,
so they continue for a longer period of time. Yeah. So you're looking at, sure.
Bradley, if I may add a little bit, I think the other thing is that a lot of people assume that, you know, this deal was just signed and then that's it. You know, it happened very quickly. So, but it wasn't, right? So in fact, they resisted signing anything for the longest time until we're able to prove, you know, we can deliver. And that's what we did. So we delivered a set of course, the Ethereum course for them. And then they find that, oh yeah, okay, this is, you know, pretty good. So
interesting. So essentially, while we hear the hype and the FOMO and a lot of the BS in many other projects where they're trying to sell their unreadiness, you're trying to get ready for real world context, real business, and you're being quiet until you can prove it. Now, I also want to talk about some other things. One of them is the Singapore government with regard to you being a potential sandbox for very serious and very significant partnerships. So, PeiHan, I want to talk to you about that first. There's a lot going on in Singapore, perhaps more than almost anywhere in the world. What can you tell us?
Okay, so it's actually great that Singapore has been really aggressive in promoting technologies. It's because that we have no resources. So our government has been doing a lot of the back end job a lot on this. So by saying that our government, we have a lot of agencies, internal agency, which actually encouraging internal adoption. They also have external agency that actually KPIs actually to bring our local solution to oversee. So for right now, we have been actually receiving a lot of inquiry and connection from our government agency side, because for one fact is that they've been actually looking around the world, and we are so far the only one-stop platform for them to actually to enhance the adoption. So
Right.
that's the reason why they are quite,
So talking in the frame of sandboxes as we were before, you're one of those very few that can be that conduit or that hub service.
Potentially.
Potentially. So I want to move it back though to Singapore for a moment, because you mentioned that there's a lot of activity, a lot of interest. Is there going to be some sort of multi-billion-dollar rollout of investment from the top down in Singapore?
Yes, in fact, I think last week our government actually announced on focus on blockchain education. So if you guys can type PCP, which means professional conversion program, and plus blockchain, you actually see this program. This program is actually a huge program for our government for past few years. So of course that this is actually a grant or subsidies which actually subsidize professional to convert them to take up other skill. So right now our focus is actually on blockchain, which again is actually a great opportunity for us, linked back from our Hanwha partnership, which we actually provide our platform for them to use. We foresee coming next few months, we should have a lot of inquiry on our local company to see, okay, since you're providing this, would you be able to provide this within Singapore? So,
right, and that's just in Singapore alone. So surely you've done some assessments of the kind of market that Singapore offers. That must be in the millions at the very least.
This market, or maybe this program, would be easily $1 billion.
Right. So that,
but we are not saying we'll be taking in the whole billion. We are looking at partner with the training centers and the institutions. Yeah.
Right. So is it fair to say, Branson, that because obviously it's rolling out now, you are going to take some of that market share because there's just there's not very many of these platforms in the entire world?
Yeah. So I think as what PeiHan mentioned, that was the budget speech that our Minister of Finance actually made when he announced that, one of the key, features of this PCP program is to focus on blockchain technologies amongst other industries. So I think obviously, when people hear this, people get very excited. But at the end of the day, when you look at the players in the market itself, right? So you have your PCP, which is your professional conversion program. Okay, so then you have your courses, but after you studied all these courses or go through the courses, where do you develop or where do you try out the different blockchains? Exactly. I think that's where we actually fit into that puzzle, because I don't think there are any other players out there providing this kind of solution.
Right, and you make a good point. So even if other parties get some of that business of trying to provide the education, it's got to go to the platforms that can help. And you're the only one that you would argue in your country and perhaps in all of Asia.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly
okay. Right. That's pretty significant. Now, with regard to other countries, let's talk about VeriTAG for a moment, if that's okay. I want to talk about that in the context of the One Belt, One Road, leading all the way through Asia, all the way to Europe, in fact, with an intercontinental system. Can either of you gentlemen tell us a bit about that potential partnership?
Okay, so VeriTAG is actually one of our first clients, and which was actually referred by one of our local big supply chain. So what VeriTAG do is actually I would say they call it last mile of supply chain. They actually track food, example, beef.
Food and beef, I see.
Yeah, beef, and actually from the origin of it, from where, and to consumers. Right? So of course they are actually quite significant size in China, and also they have establishment in Singapore.
Right.
So recently they're actually quite aggressive in forming food alliance, which actually involve quite a few of our local famous brands to bring Singapore brand into this One Belt One Road. And I think they're actually focusing on halal product as well. So that is so far what we were actually been told by the CEO.
I see. So let me get this straight. VeriTag's an instant client of yours, been one for some time, and now they're really building out their plans with supply chains, particularly with regard to food, to go really intercontinental via the One Belt One Road program. So that must be exciting. With regard to other partnerships, I want to talk to you, PeiHan, about banks. I would imagine that the Singapore bank is very interested in you. And many other banks. So let's find out how much, what's going on in the banking sector.
I believe later Branson can actually add on top, because he's more network in banking.
Okay.
However, for banks, I think they're actually big players. So our approach, in fact, we currently is actually in talk to one of the big four. So we are
the big four.
Yeah,
what do you mean by big four?
Big four accountancy firm. Yeah,
okay.
One of the big four. So we are, hopefully, finger crossed, we are at the last stage. So our approach is actually through them, and we could actually penetrate into banking side of FIs. Yeah. So maybe Branson can actually, because Branson has been actually giving training to some of the famous banks in Singapore.
Well, tell us about those big banks, Branson.
Sure.
BBB.
So I've actually done a series of a blockchain 101 training courses for United Overseas Bank, UOB. So what they did was that they engaged me to actually teach what blockchain is, how does it apply in the finance or in the banking world. So I've done that for from senior management all the way to branch managers. And I believe that this is a significant step, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are talking about, banks are slow to move. They're very resistant to changes and things like that. But I don't see the case. I don't see the same thing with the Singapore banks. I think they're very interested in understanding what is this blockchain technology all about. And they are taking steps to actually help some of their employees to actually understand what this is. And so that's the first step. And of course, we are progressing to having, subsequent talks about, what's next, right? So I think we are still early days, but I think, the first step to actually understand what blockchain is, I think that's a significant step. Yeah.
Right. So you make the point also, if you're making the first move in the educational sphere, surely that's going to lead into further business if you can prove that it's efficient. And like PeiHan was saying, that you can prove the economic value of this transition with a 50% plus gain in productivity. Now, again, there are some other partnerships I want to talk about, but I'm going to let you tell us what you can with regard to countries. Are there countries currently engaging in your technology, in your service, so that they can then optimize literally governments or literally the private sector in some way?
I think for currently, most of our clients are actually from Singapore and either also have office in China. So it's actually these two countries. So for partnership, we also consider as part of our clients is also, like we mentioned, in Korea. However, we actually receiving and our government agency has been connecting us to Europe, and interesting Middle East side is actually a lot of inquiry from Middle East, and also recently there's actually one from Africa.
Okay, so that's quite a few continents. We're talking Africa, Middle East, talking about all the way through to China. That's a lot going on. You also won third place in international competition that IBM was part of as well. So that's substantial. You're capturing the attention and imagination of a lot of different sectors and a lot of different people.
Yes, but with this, these inquiries, we actually aim for this. Current stage, we would want to actually focus more on Asia and perhaps Middle East at the current moment.
Right. Okay. Now, Branson, this is a tough one. What about the potential for cloud computing? There are some really big players. I had a look at your partners on your website. You mentioned Yahoo's and things like that, but I want to find out, are you in discussions with any significant parties? I ask because just recently, the other company we were talking about before, the back end announced that they were going to partner with Oracle. So are you guys looking at those kinds of partners?
Yes, I think definitely, because at the end of the day, we are actually hosted on the cloud service. So, it makes sense, for us to form a very strategic partnership with some of these big players. But having said that, I think we have spoken to one or two of them. They have expressed interest in, sort of unplugging our platform from this cloud service and actually plugging into their service. Mm-hmm. So I think that represents, again, something that we are doing right, and they see the potential in that. Yeah.
Right.
I think to add on,
sure.
Sorry, to add on top on Branson, I think we do have a few inquiries from cloud providers because they see the synergy between us, and they're actually quite keen to bring us on board by providing as a solution to their clients. That means actually to provide their sales force to actually promote to their clients.
And what's the sort of size of some of these? Are these really substantial companies, or are they?
Yes.
So they're huge. Basically.
They are huge.
Okay, but you can't tell us anymore. I'm sensing that from you.
Yes, I think my nephew, even 10 years old, he will actually heard of them.
Right. Okay. So they're very, very international in their. Yes. Okay. And yeah, when we talk next, hopefully you'll have some more information on that, PeiHan. Now, I want to talk about the token purpose, the token design itself. This is a tough question. We're going to go right into the nitty-gritty of utility. Now, right from the outset, you've always maintained the utility token. You've established right now you're currently traded as such in these scenarios of B2D and B2B. Talk us through how you can prove that the system you've designed can be tested and true as a utility. We really want to get that clear because we obviously see a lot of companies emerging where they don't have anything. They literally have nothing and they don't have any way of being a utility because they don't even have a mainnet.
I think this question actually can be drilled down to the business itself because we see a lot of the projects, they actually forcefully fit into utility tokenomics. But for us, we are actually, it's actually quite normal. Example, credit card having points, Singapore Airlines, KrisFlyer, they're having other points as well. So these basic forms of credit utility already been around for many, many years. So it's actually a form of client retention, promotion, and actually make the whole company can actually grow healthy by retaining more client, or maybe this client can actually trade in between these providers' services. So that's actually for us. We are the platform. So if you look and examine our platform, we offer many services, example, subscription, and then app store, or maybe archive app library. Also, we actually have different, I'll call it a multiverse of partners and clients, from protocol to enterprise to also distributor and also to education. So I believe that a true utility is not only by number of the usage it can expand, but also by number of the users. So by closely multiplying that, we actually increase the potential of utility, which we don't want to do new things. Instead, we actually build on what has been going on in the real business.
Right. But let's pull it back though. I understand what you're saying with regard to building out the ecosystem, but why use a token? Now, Branson, I'm going to go to you for this one for a moment. Now, obviously, fiat theoretically could work in any ecosystem, regard blockchain or otherwise. So why is it so essential? Why is it so integral to have the token drive this microeconomy called Morpheus Labs? Why do you need it?
I think at the end of the day, if you look at our platform, and I alluded to this earlier, which is that when partners or when customers come on board, when you use MITX, it's not just, okay, this is for the platform itself, but what we want to do is also to encourage the usage of this token as a form of a credit for, let's say, for example, schools or educational institutes that are coming on board. So I think we believe at the end of the day, education is the key to the adoption. So which is why the more enterprises come on board, the more we want to give back to the educational sector, and that's where we partner with universities and academic institutions. And then let's say they come to us and they say, oh, we are planning a course on, you know, this blockchain and using your platform. Can we work out a partnership where, you know, some of our less fortunate students or students in need can actually learn some of these courses? We are more than happy to do that. I think that's one of the key areas. So it's not just, you know, for the sake of, you know, using our platform, therefore you use MITX, but, you know, we want to make sure that MITX at the end of the day, it can be used for educational courses.
Sure. Now, we've spoken this twice now. I understand that you want to give back, and the token's a mechanism for giving, being altruistic. But there's got to be more than that. There has to be a fundamental, integral reason why. So PeiHan, can you tell us, let's talk about incentivization. Let's talk about the mechanics of the token. Why is it so integral, if it is, as fuel for your ecosystem?
Like I mentioned previously, it's like it's already in the traditional business, how you can actually retain customer and how can you actually grow customer. We put it example, we're going to actually sponsor one of our education partners, students. So we put it in real example because that's what we are doing right now. We can actually give a coupon or maybe a voucher to these students, maybe $20. So what can they do? They can't do anything. So they have to buy more of our tokens to actually subscribe our platform. So it actually incentivize them to actually subscribe to our platform. So it forms this basic.
I see. So the incentivization is afforded by this unique system. Yes. But I want to now move this across to the value itself. Now, every token has a value, and obviously this is a unique digital asset, arguably because it really allows for the transaction of utility and functionality. It allows for the transaction of service as well, and it does it seamlessly and very efficiently. But underneath that, there is this volatile value. So I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, as well, in the future, as you build this mechanism, how are you going to ensure that you can really keep that utility strong and move away from the risks inherent with speculation? Because you are a true utility. How do you protect that?
Sure. So, yeah, I think for us, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, as you mentioned, you know, some of this speculation on the token prices and things like that has, obviously, it has been very disruptive to some of the things out there. This token economics that we have is actually a work in progress. We are constantly studying better ways to make sure that this fluctuation does not happen, you know, too often.
Now, obviously, that's a work in progress and the models are developing. This is what's happening with every different blockchain I talk to right now. Are you also considering, PeiHan, an internal treasury system or some sort of way in which you can handle and control and support the utility itself so it maintains the utility?
Yes, we actually, right now, actually, we are actually partnering with some of the, I would say, external parties to actually enhance and actually facilitate our clients buying our tokens. So this actually have been happening for all the customers right now. So in future, we actually been in the roadmap, we are going to actually do an internal exchange. So it's a mini exchange which actually allow not only fiat, but we foresee there could be other currencies being utilized and held by the potential user coming in to actually subscribe. So you'll be making everything more efficient.
Right, and that's a really big deal because again, that internalization and mechanism for control to some degree, ironically, also enables you to ensure the true value of this maintained as a utility. That's happening, as I said, with the very few that are currently managing these pure utilities in the blockchain sphere right now. Now, speculation obviously is rife throughout all of blockchain, but fundamentally, are you confident right now that for the most part that people are currently using your token for that utility in the context of business?
Yes, I mean, that's the reason why when we talk to our clients about how this our utility token, when they get this, they'll actually get the discount. I mean, that it's actually all the business, traditional business we put it into this tokenomic. So we are quite confident of that.
Right. Okay. Now let's move across to interoperability, because you have a very robust suite of different options for blockchains themselves. I'm just going to run through them for a moment. You have nulls, correct me if I'm wrong, Icon, QuarkChain, VChain, NEM, Neurochain, Ethereum, Hyperledger. Am I on the right track?
We do not have Icon right now.
You don't have Icon. Okay.
Yes.
So not yet. I would imagine that might happen given you're in Korea, but you have a lot. So can you tell us why you chose all these? Because they cover many different regions of the globe, from Asia, Europe, and the US.
Yes. In fact, there are actually a few more coming in. Just due to our limited resources, we are not able to onboard them right now. And one of them is actually quite famous. I mean, yes. And the reason why we actually chose by two criteria. One is actually their region, which country they actually exist. Yeah. And another, actually, we choose which type or maybe which focus they are in. It could be IoT or it could be banking and other sectors. So we have initially this criteria. Also on top of that, we also look at how many potential, I mean, is it popular, and the user size as well. I mean, there's no point we actually choose something that is still quite new.
I see. So you've done your due diligence on these different chains as well. Now, clearly that's going to expand the reach of your own service itself. How has the experience been, though, with regard to these specific ones on the list? Has it been working?
Yes. I mean, the most difficult part is actually for us to get through the C-level. And it's always stuck there. Once we get to C-level, because they know their business and they know their technology, they could actually immediately see we actually fit it right into the pain point. So once we talk to the CEO, it's actually 1 second they love us.
Right.
1 second. Yeah.
Right. So what about the private sector? I mean, we talked recently, there was some discussions, or there was a release of information about a coin from a major bank, a private bank. Then there's also discussions of R3 and Quorum and other private chains emerging. Are you planning on working more and more with private chains, with private permission systems as well, with regard to the prospects to interoperate, to provide this technology for more blockchains? Are some of these blockchains very focused and private?
I think they actually link to our recent meeting with Oman. So that is actually one of their questions. Yes, we are blockchain agnostic, so we don't actually limit our potential to which private or public. Yeah. Okay. So we are also working on that as well.
I see. And it'll be interesting to hear more of those big other chains that you won't tell me about yet. It's exciting. Now, what about patents? You are, I would imagine, because you're a service, you offer products. Have you got patents to protect those?
Yes, we are actually in progress of patent one of first patent. And also, I mean, previously I mentioned we are actually in the final stage of agreement with one of Big Four. So this agreement is actually to co-own the product and also co-own the patent, the ownership of the patent. So we are actually in midst of looking at this too.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. Now, Branson, I want to ask, given all these things that are happening, talk us through some of the fundamental benefits and the advantages of why any business throughout the world would actually choose specifically Morpheus Labs. I've written a whole page of very clear reasons more generically, but tell us exactly what really sets you apart. As other technologies come to the fore in the future, you're going to need to have something that stands out.
Sure. I think one of the, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, it's too early to call for, to place your bet on any blockchains. So I think besides the use cases, a lot of enterprises are confused as to which blockchain to use. I think that's number one. But beyond that, I think we are not sitting on our laurels. So what we are doing now is actually going ahead and looking at some other features that will make it easier for enterprises to actually, develop a DApp without having to hire tons of developers sitting around. So I think that's something that we are working on. I'm afraid that I cannot share too much about this, because obviously that is
confidential
very,
at this stage.
yeah,
Sure. Right, and you make the point with the UIs and the UXs, it's just making sure everything's seamless. I'll just run through a few. Some of the big ones are being enterprise-centric, really catering for the needs of the SME businesses. That alludes also to some partnerships or potentials of partnerships in the future. In Singapore, for example, I was speaking with the CEO Conrad recently just through text, and he mentioned in his text that he really supported what Morpheus Labs is doing. And I think that's interesting because, again, there are these alliances forging for the potential of SME, for the potential of real business. So clearly, a lot of people are paying attention even inside blockchain.
Cool, yeah.
Also, with regard to transparency and trust, clearly there's some of the benefits there. Can you talk us through the value of that?
Yeah, so I think obviously we have different types of chains in there, but at the end of the day, we allow users to actually switch between different blockchains. So that itself, to me, we don't, at the end of the day, we don't dictate, what the users will use. It's up to them, and they can see whatever use cases that they are most comfortable with. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, once again, you've made it very clear that the most important part is that you can save the enterprises money. What about developers? Do you save them money as well? Because some of these guys are very small.
Yes, I think. Yeah. So for developers, I think they want an environment where they can actually very quickly, develop something. I think most developers, at the end of the day, they want to look at use cases, right? Being able to churn out the apps that people or even enterprises that want to use. They don't want to be meddling with, installation packages, so on and so forth. So I think once we have done all this heavy lifting for them, they can actually focus on what they do best, which is, very quickly, provide the solution to the different businesses. Right.
Now, PeiHan, talk us through the market situation for this economy globally. Now, we're talking about not just blockchain, but fundamentally the services that you provide. How big is this market when we talk it in numbers? Just trying to educate us through just the magnitude of what you're actually tackling here.
Okay, so let's drill down from higher level. We know that blockchain by 2030 would be about $1 trillion or maybe more than $1 trillion. However, we actually more segment into how much is the market for user or maybe enterprise want to spend on blockchain. That from the research is about, I would say, 9 billion plus in next 3 years. So this is the core market that we are looking at, because there are this amount that outside for people that ask to grab on. So that's actually the size of it.
Right. Okay, that's quite substantial. So 9 billion, that's not to be balked at. Now, with regard to to funds themselves, you had a TGE or an ICO. I want to go through some of those facts with both of you gentlemen, so it's very clear where you're at with money. Now, you raised $10 million. Is that correct?
Yes, during the time, yes.
Yes, right. Now, let's talk about present day. What's the situation? What have you cashed out? What are you left with? Let's just get really transparent about all of this so people really know where you're at.
I think we know that Ether has actually went down from maybe during a pro about $800 until right now it's actually before this call, I actually look at it, it's actually 133. Okay. So there's actually the magnitude of its decrease. Sure. However, for our team, we are really focused on, that's the reason why we didn't do any marketing. We just want to focus on our product and do the real things and actually to go live. So for right now, we still have a quite comfortable run rate for next, I would say more than 1 year. So for our division as the team, we actually focus to go into more revenue generating and going forward.
But just to help you out, let's just pull it back to being real. Now, you didn't cash all of your ETH out. You've always been transparent about that. But because of the revenue element, that is really important. You're balancing the equation there. So you went down, you dropped your fund access because Ethereum dropped, but you're saying that even then you still have runway. now let's talk about revenue to balance that out. Are you confident because you're starting to make money that that's compensating and supporting you to build up?
Right now, I would say that it is going to actually really healthy way. Yeah. Okay. So that's the reason why we do not want to actually focus on one deal, because it's actually there's no scalability in it. So we want to actually go through with a distributor, and so through them we actually can go scalable.
Sorry, you're cutting out slightly there. So are you saying that because you can go and scale and develop more revenue through the approach, that longitudinally you're confident because you're starting to show the pattern of revenue?
Yes, correct. And also to look into the partners that we actually partnering, the conversion rate that we foresee is actually rather high.
Right. Okay. So minimum, what's the bare minimum of time that you have right now for runway?
We have, I mean, without any revenue, we could actually run for more than one year. Okay. And this without revenue.
Sure. And I want to ask this also to you, PeiHan, again, because I was impressed how expedited the process was, given that you hadn't converted all of that raise into fiat at the time. That must have given a lot of really serious pressure and stress to the team. Was that productive though? Did that drive you to make this happen earlier?
Yes. In fact, that most of us, we didn't actually make as much as previously when we are in our previous company, or maybe in my previous startup. So of course that actually forced us to go more aggressive, because we know that this product is going to make it by validation from the partners, protocol partners, and also from the real customers. So that actually drive us a lot. I mean, you imagine that there's no this validation, then actually there won't be this motivation. But because,
so it could have actually been a boon, because we've also seen, Branson, examples of where some of them are resting on their laurels because they raise such huge amounts of money that perhaps they are incentivized to get off their butts and work 7 days a week. Now, are you guys working those kinds of hours? Is that what you're putting in to make this work?
Actually, we are working around the clock.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the key things is that although we have raised about 10 during that time, I think right from day one, we are very clear that, we have this kind of money, but it will not last, right? So we have not just, set our laurels and just wait for things to happen.
Right.
So I think we have focused on business from day one. But of course, the price of the Ether dropping so much, bring us to a more urgent state. But I think at the end of the day, we knew this from day one. Yeah.
So rather than go bust, you made it a boon, and you've knuckled down, and now the proof is in the revenue. And obviously now it's all about time from this point forward into 2019. That's going to test it. But PeiHan, given already what you've achieved, are you confident that you are in that true upward trajectory of value and of growth?
Yes, I mean, for people who know me, I'm actually really rather conservative. So, and within our team, we actually really are motivated by all these blockchain partners coming in. I mean, like we mentioned, these partners are actually they are actually key partners who they will only be signing agreement and forming partnership after examining your platform idea and they see something in it. And in fact, that quite a few of these partners, they actually suggest to use our platform in their hackathon. So we know that hackathon is actually a lot of people involved, and they will actually sign up to our platform and actually use our platform to develop app and then publish into our app store. So there's actually one beginning of that. And then another beginning of that, we actually see a lot of education key players actually coming to us to actually ask about can we work on something. So they actually give us really high confidence this is going to make it. I mean, with my background, I have been in the jungle since 2010. So it's almost, I think it's about 9 years. So I've actually been through a few startup and few business. So looking at what we have done so far, I believe the fundamental things that we laid down is actually all for the scalability. So,
So all that hard work in this first year infrastructural focus has really come to fruition now as you become viable in enterprise, and obviously there's a lot more to get done. I want to move back though to some of the numbers. Now, 25% of the tokens was for the token sale. You have allocated for and other parts for different components, some for foundations. I won't go through them. People can go and read into them. But what I did want to focus on more so was the token burn. You've got a plan ahead for that. So let's talk us through that and what's expected.
Okay, so during end of our ICO, we actually decided to burn up to 45% of our total supply. So a lot of people actually a lot of community members actually ask us, okay, when are you going to burn? So we actually internally we intend to actually have one for next 5 years to burn a certain amount.
Okay, so within that 5-year period, you're going to set an amount and disclose it.
Yes, we're going to burn across this 5 years period. The reason why we do not want to pre-announce is we want to avoid any
market reaction. Yeah.
Yes, intense. I mean, somebody pre-planned everything. Yeah, that's why we want to avoid.
Now that's important for both sides. Obviously, you'll be transparent and disclose the full plan, but not telling us when. But you can guarantee you are going to burn that full amount. Is that correct? The 45%?
Yes, we actually have burned already 20%. So we're going to burn another 25% up to, so it depends on the market situation. Yeah.
Right, but the good news is though, what you're saying is you're going to reduce the token supply.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, can you give us some explanations of the team's tokens, just so people can know what your plan is with regard to lockups, so that there's full trust and transparency that the teams or any party can't dump suddenly on the other side of it.
Okay, so I mean, regarding our team, we feel there's no need, and for us, we actually have announced the whole team we're going to actually lock up until if not wrong, is it September or November of this year? The reason why I can't remember correctly is because we don't even have the intention to sell any token.
Right.
So for us, we have no such intention. So we only focus on making this revenue grow. That is the main focus, not really to sell something which we think is valuable in next few years.
So you're not into the speculative part of crypto. Now, I want to ask you, Branson, as well, with regard to IPO and STO narratives. You guys could technically, if you do very well, you could do an IPO, you could do an STO in the future, do the chicken before the egg, build a business, and then do something. Is there some discussion at all now, or is it too early days?
Well, I think there's always talks about STOs and things like that. Now, while we are focusing on building the businesses, I think there have been occasional events where some interested parties have actually come to us and speak about STOs and potentially also taking stakes in the company. We haven't rolled it out, so we are having some of these discussions. But like I said, it's still early days. But we don't want to leave fundraising to the last minute, obviously. So that is also the reason why we're having those talks. Yeah.
Right. So that's exciting. Again, thank you for the transparency there. That doesn't happen all the time. So that reaffirms that the current state of your blockchain is truly utility centric, because right now that's all you've got. You've got a utility that's driving this economy. In the future, you could add layers to that, no doubt, but that won't affect the utility. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yes, it won't.
Okay. Now, let's move to Singapore and focus there for a moment. There are some other companies. I want to talk about Fintrux a little bit more. Is there potential for partnership there? I mean, they're very financially focused. I studied them and their connection to the regulatory Singaporean sandbox. It's very hard to get in that. They did. Are you paying attention to these kinds of companies and forge more of these relationships?
In fact, yes, Conrad from Fintrux has actually connected to us as well. So they're actually P2P platform for financing. So I mean, as for us as a middleman, we see us as a middleman or maybe middle platform which connect everybody. So as a whole ecosystem, we foresee example that startup come to us build the app, launch the app in our app library, they might actually in future want to source for certain type of funding to grow their business. So there's actually where possibly Fintrux or maybe other similar players can come in to enhance this ecosystem.
Right. So, and in that respect as well, PeiHan, are you connected with the government in Singapore? Like, do you have direct connections, and are they aware of the potentials of your technology?
We are really close with quite a few agencies who actually the key KPI for them is actually technology adoption. So they are really, I mean, after looking at what we are doing, they are really, really keen and aggressive to connect us with different enterprise and SMEs. So we are, I mean, in fact, we are actually right now we are in planning stage to form and plan for a seminar within this, inviting most of the software houses and developer to this seminar. So this event is actually, right now it's actually formed by us and two other agencies.
Right, and that could be quite an invaluable thing because they're going to offer you direct and indirect work because of their connections. Are you finding that they're also branching out into other countries because of the connections they have inter-country?
Yes, indeed. That's the reason why one of the agencies connect us to Oman and also connect us to Turkey. So in the meeting, they also proposed to have a closer meeting to explore which other regions would be our strategic position.
Right.
So yes, they actually.
Okay, and given that you are arguably this enterprise-centric protocol that is based in Asia, particularly Southeast, and given the influx of interest in Vietnam and in Malaysia and in the Philippines, there's so many regions. It's a burgeoning industry, it's developing, flourishing actually. Are you also paying attention to this kind of movement?
Yes. So I believe in recent news, we actually share something related to that. It's actually through one of our partners, we are potentially going into Vietnam and Indonesia.
Okay.
So
they're big markets.
Yes, I mean, in fact, there are all those, most of our company in Singapore, or maybe all those are maybe more expensive countries. They actually source from these countries for the developers. Right,
okay. So you'll be able to tell us more about the nature of these plans and as you roll them out. It's always tough talking when you haven't got everything, all the NDAs, but
it's actually signed. Just that we respect our partners because it's actually quite a strategic play for them. They want to actually grow their space in these regions. So that's the reason why although it's signed, but I'm not able to share right now.
Right. Well, it's good to hear you've already got these deals done. I mean, from your end, it's done and you're just being very polite as you are. Now, partners, let's talk about some of the others. Amazon, AWS, the Korean and Medium Small Industries Manager Association, Y3 Technologies. There's a lot going on for you guys with regard to partnerships. And as you said before, PeiHan, these mean something. So tell us, gentlemen, what do these mean for you with regard to real deal development?
I think it's really motivation boost. Branson and I, we know, everybody know we have not been focusing on marketing, and most of these partners actually came to us. So that's the reason why, although we are not receiving as high pay as previously, but we know that there's this fruit right there for us to grab if we actually work hard. So it's actually quite a motivation boost. And also when we talk to this C-level or maybe higher management, they can actually see directly what we are offering. So to form a partnership or maybe to close a deal is actually not a lot of the trouble. It's actually quite immediate.
Okay, right. Yeah. Now, what about the team? Has the team got the skills? I've had a look through. You have a smaller team, but you have one with a lot of different credentials explained through it. But more importantly, do you have it? And is your team growing? Are you hiring?
In fact, yes, we have been growing during this bearish market because we are getting a lot of things done, and not only BD but also technology. So if you actually look at from four of us, I've been actually in jungle since 2010. So
you've been in the game. You mean you've been in the game, right?
I've been starting set up business, entering into different countries to form to do deals. Example, I was actually into Myanmar many years ago when nobody actually dared to go in. And my client back then was actually the giants in Myanmar. So that is my experience. And also if you look at Branson, I mean, he's actually a really fantastic and marketing genius. I mean, going and actually to form all the network and actually to talk to all these big guys because he's a consultant background. Also, if we look at Dorio, he's actually global CIO of Untitled. His experience is actually to form the architect and to how to make large company more efficient.
Well, Branson, let's explore that a bit more. I'm sorry to interrupt, PeiHan, but you also have been involved with an exchange as well, Branson, with the EXC. That's really significant. It's arguably going to have some sort of link with Morpheus Labs as well. Talk us through that, and then talk us through the irony of not being able to do the marketing yet, but having that skill set. Surely at some point that's going to have to become really prevalent. You know, I noticed that recently you had the Forbes article published. But, you know, we want to talk in those contexts. First, let's talk about your exchange, what that means, and then what is your go-to market strategy?
Sure. So for everyone who doesn't know, I think the partnership between ECXX and Morpheus Labs is that Morpheus Labs actually holds a certain percentage in ECXX, and that's the digital asset platform that we're setting up. So from the strategic partnership point of view, I think it works hand in hand because a lot of the time when you look at some of the use cases, I think a lot of people would arguably say that, you know, perhaps cryptocurrency itself is one of the best use case for blockchain, right? So I think in that respect, that itself helps us to actually entrench ourselves in the blockchain space. So and obviously that also contributes a certain percentage of, I guess, revenue and also bottom line.
Right, and I think you made a good point. So it's another means of revenue potentially. Also, I want to add in, are you regulated? Is this a regulated exchange?
So we are in the midst of applying for licenses, and that's the Regulated Market Operator RMO license with the Singapore government. We are also happy to announce that for ECXX, we are actually in the first batch of the sandbox in Hong Kong. So these are the two major jurisdictions that we are currently, engaging the regulators. And if you look at, some of the world's biggest financial centers, I think Singapore and Hong Kong will be right up there, which is why we want to be there.
Right. So this could potentially give you significant revenue for both entities.
Yes. And the other thing that we read about, I think probably yesterday or today, the Government Investment Corporation, GIC, which is the the sovereign wealth fund of Singapore, actually invested into one of the world's largest exchanges as well. So I think in that sense, I think the Singapore government is very, very open to blockchain technologies, and ECXX with Morpheus Labs, they are right up there. Yeah.
Right. Well, if they're putting their money into these things, and you're literally there in the zone where the interest is at the highest levels with the most money. So that must be exciting in that respect as well for the potential. Now, I want to again go to that market question now. You are as PeiHan was saying, you're an expert in that field. Why hasn't it been a stellar marketing job yet for Morpheus Labs?
Sure. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I have worked in the enterprise space for a while. Marketing per se, obviously, that's not my forte. But at the end of the day, that is something that we have been working on. Now, of course, arguably, we could have done more in marketing. Like I said, these are some of the things that we will be focusing on, very much in the next few months. But there are many, many moving parts to the marketing equation. And that is something that we are getting right. And we have studied a few other models that some of these projects have been using, which have been fairly, successful in terms of getting, user traction and also people interested in their project. So we are studying those, and we are incorporating the best ideas into some of our marketing plans.
Right. Well, give us a bit of a roadmap, a marketing roadmap. Forbes was one of those big hits in terms of article. It was a very professional one. I saw it. Sure. Clearly, you've got a budget. Talk us through whether or not you have enough and what your plan is specifically to target mainstream, or if indeed you are.
Yeah, so I think one of the key major areas that we are looking at is actually targeting the developer community. I think for us, you know, we don't call ourselves the blockchain platform as a service if we do not get on board more DApps, more developers. And this has been the case with most of the blockchains out there. When we speak to them, and PeiHan mentioned about this earlier, they're very excited to come on board. Why? Because of a few things. Because we are focusing on developers. We are focusing on DApps, the use cases, and so on and so forth. A lot of the blockchains out there, you know, they claim to have, you know, 10,000 TPS and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, where are the DApps? Where are the developers? Right. So that's where we are placing our focus a lot into this community. We're spending probably a significant amount of money as well. And we have actually a whole plan targeted at this group of people.
Right. So it's good to know you basically said it in there that you're apportioned quite a lot of money to it and you're taking it seriously. Now I want to move across to a different exchange for a moment, PeiHan. I want to talk to you about the state of exchanges currently for the Morpheus Labs token, the MITX token, because right now some people are saying that some of the exchanges aren't so great, some of them are okay. But is there any plan for you with regard to how you're going to approach access for people as they engage with this utility token in the open market?
Okay, so for us, we receive a lot of the inquiries from our communities to listed on more exchanges. But we have been studying a lot of the famous projects, not only in Singapore but also in overseas. We're actually looking at what happened when they actually get listed in 12 exchanges, and they're actually a big one. Unfortunately, I think the fact is actually, although they listed in there, the price also and volume it doesn't actually show that. So for us, we believe if our product is so good and the token has been used widely, people actually come to us. I mean, let's say maybe many years ago.
Sure, but even looking today, and I apologize for interrupting, but some of the exchanges have much more significant volume than the others. So is it something you're aware of? And is it something that you're trying to address? Because the majority of the feedback I've had in the preparation for the interview was that they'd like to see more volume, more consistently. They'd like to see the access to some of the exchanges be more seamless rather than others. Are you getting some of that feedback as well?
Yes. So yes, of course, we would always look at more exchanges. But right now, it's as we know, this is actually a crypto winter. So we just need to balance how we can actually use our fund and when we use it to go list into these exchanges.
Got it. Okay, so you're taking a very much a no BS approach with marketing and with the exchanges. So it's refreshing. Now, what about crypto marketing? I want to get this clear. This is a free interview, of course, but do you think there's any value in the way in which that we've seen crypto media unfold as you begin to become known, even at this time, as an active, viable utility?
Yes, of course. So we actually have our team looking at mainstream media and also crypto media. We think both is actually quite important. So yeah, so we're actually looking at it.
Got it. Okay. So you've got a clear strategy. I want to talk about academia for a moment, universities around the world. Hanwha is known as the Harvard technologically in China, at least. And then there's other major players. Are you talking to anybody where you could partner?
Yes. I mean, we are fortunate to have Hanwha from China to actually visit us and did 2 interviews with us. I mean, I think during their visit in Singapore, they visited maybe 10, and we are the only one that actually did 2 interviews. So it actually shows some significance of us with this Hanwha FinTech Research Lab. So they're actually all the researcher. So we also have one of the EMBA from the top university in Taiwan actually came to us. And in fact, I think by next few weeks, we have another university from Taiwan coming to us. So the reason why we are talking to these universities is linked back to education. We actually see that education is the most important things. In fact, we talk to our enterprise customers. One of the key concerns is that, okay, I want to use this blockchain and I want to do this solution. But after it's done, is there any capability to manage this? Can we actually easily hire anybody to deal with this? So right now, I think there's a gap for that. So that's actually where we are to come in to solve as well. So
got it. So you're bridging that gap, as you said.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I want to talk to you also about the potential, the future. What kind of numbers are we talking about with regard to future partnerships that only the teams could know? What's in the pipeline in terms of potential partnerships, things that we can expect in the next, say, half year?
Okay, so currently in the queue, we have at least 3 to 4 really big names.
Okay, so our focus really big. What do you mean by big?
Branson, I think they consider Fortune 200.
Okay, maybe, Fortune 200 companies, right?
Yeah, top 200.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, so they actually fall into this we so-called distributor, or maybe a profile joint project to create our branding. So we're actually focusing on this type of partners as well.
And when can we expect some of those things to become known?
Okay, so in fact that all of these are actually in final stage of approval process. And we're actually doing planning, and most of the planning is actually how we actually allocate resources to work with them, because right now we are still digesting a lot of the current partners. Like example, we just completed integrating VChain, so we are going to actually integrate more blockchains as well. So we are doing this. So there's actually key things that delay us a bit. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, Branson, you also have more knowledge of some of the partnerships in the pipeline. Is there anything in particular you're really excited about, or any key vertical as you see this starting to emerge as a viable business?
I think one of the key areas, and of course this is we're not going to talk about specific examples, but I just came back from KL from a summit, a blockchain summit, and it's very exciting to see governments coming out very openly to say that, okay, blockchain is a specific key area for the Industrial Revolution 4.0 plan. So I think that to us, shows us that we are on the right track. And we have been engaging some of these governments, statutory boards and so on and so forth. In fact, there was another country's stock exchange that came to us and said that, okay, I want you guys to actually come to our country and present to all our listed companies, because they want to know how to adopt blockchain technology, but they have no idea how.
Got it.
So I think these are some of the key partnerships that we are very, very keen to pursue.
Right. Well, there's a lot going on, and you also have an ambassador program, for those who are not aware, that is functioning right now, and I'd imagine in time, with the right people, that will expand. And you have social media channels. You have Medium, you have Twitter, Reddit, Telegram, and obviously you have other areas as well. But gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to say to those people who didn't know about Morpheus Labs? Now they know you're live. They know that you're doing real stuff. I might start with you, Branson, then we'll finish off with the CEO, the top spot at the end. Is there anything you'd like to say to all those who perhaps didn't know about Morpheus Labs, so they can really get a concise understanding to close off?
Sure. Yeah. So I think let's take a step back. I think in 2017, everyone was very overly excited about the price of cryptocurrencies and so on. So there's a lot of speculation on the price. 2018 obviously brought us back down to earth. And 2019, we will see that, a lot of companies or projects will start to have to deliver, right? And this is where I think this will help Morpheus Labs shine the most, because we have been building from day one. We have not been sitting on our laurels. We have not been, looking at prices. We have not been speculating on things. So I think that's where, when reality sets in, I think we will be one of the companies that will shine. Yeah.
Right. And the proof is going to be in the revenue, essentially. The proof is going to be in the productivity, and the proof is going to be in the performance and the satisfaction from the companies. And we're going to be watching that, because as I was saying before, we're going to engage, hopefully, as a community to check on companies as they start to become real, to get that imperative feedback. But right now, you guys are saying that it's all good and the feedback is positive. PeiHan, what about you? Are you confident that you can lead this out and be one of the leading companies that are based on blockchain, that are enterprise-centric, for the future of the whole industry?
Yes, I mean, in fact, if we actually look at what is happening right now, I think everybody is actually talking about adoption. So what is the key problem of this? It's always the infrastructure. So we actually talk, you can actually see the government is actually talking about it, enterprise is actually talking about it, especially the blockchain protocols, they're actually talking about infrastructure, how to make everything adoption go fast, the use case go fast. So this is the key problem. And what is this key problem is it considered like previously I mentioned is the technology adoption and also the cost adoption. Right now, it's actually too high. It's not that easy to adopt technically. And also it's not that easy. It's not that cheap to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's actually what we do. And that's the reason why more and more blockchain is actually coming to us. And it's also through referral, a lot of the SME or enterprise, even government is actually coming to us to say, okay, you are the guy. You guys are the things that we have been looking for past few years. Can we actually sit down and talk? How can you guys and us, we can actually work out something in our region, maybe in our clientele. And that's the reason why we mentioned we are actually talking to one of the even biggest cloud provider. They are actually keen to bring us to their clients,
right?
To actually provide another solution to the
right. And you know, it's very clear some of these, when you say big, we're talking internationally big, we're talking some of the biggest companies in the world. Not to FOMO that, but I mean, it's very obvious you're being very serious right now. Again, to reiterate, you are all about putting, as you say, a ding in the business universe. I would argue that it's even more than that. It's blockchain business, and you're certainly making a big ding right now, and you're doing it early. And this is why this is an interesting conversation. You're doing it from a place that is arguably one of the hubs of blockchain in the entire universe itself, and that is Singapore. Gentlemen, it's been very interesting. I am very much looking forward to seeing this next step of seeing you evolve in business, hearing the feedback from these, proving the productivity even more. I wish you all the very best in the future. And hopefully, if you'll have me, I'll be back to talk more about Morpheus Labs in the future. But until then, thank you sincerely for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.